This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bornini, and these are your headlines. The trade in monkeys to the United States for medical research is to go on. A Chinese gang leaves a bomb in Phnom Penh, and Cambodia could well be the new Asian tiger economy. But first, to our headline story. The storm surrounding the purported smuggling of endangered wild monkeys out of the country still rages on. Monkeys that were destined to be used in medical experiments in America. The ministry involved has stated this week that it dismisses reports that it is to suspend exports of monkeys. They say it will continue on. Whilst in New York, the Cambodian embassy will do all it can to get their man out of jail, even waiving their diplomatic immunity.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries will continue to export the long-tailed macaque to international markets, despite an ongoing legal case against two very senior Cambodian officials that is currently running in a US court case. The outcry had begun when Mr. Mafal, the Deputy Director of Wildlife at the Forestry Administration, was arrested on November the 16th and charged with smuggling wild long-tailed macaques into the United States. Incredibly, he was arrested at JFK, New York, while on his way to attend a UN forum on endangered species. The Cambodian ambassador within the United States has stepped in and has asked for Mr. Mafal to be transferred to the embassy to be held in their custody. The embassy is very keen to give him sanctuary and said it would grant the US authorities complete access to the embassy, going as far as to say the embassy would waive all diplomatic and other immunities that would otherwise prevent the entry of agents of the US government. And it is not only Mr. Mafal, but also the Director General of the Agricultural and Forestry Administration, who has also been charged, but in southern Florida, and he also faces multiple felony charges. If convicted, each defendant faces up to 5 years in prison on a charge of conspiracy and up to 20 years imprisonment on each of the smuggling charges. That, and there is a potential fine of up to $250,000.
The European Union has commended Cambodia's efforts of its special envoy to promote the peace plan to end the crisis in Myanmar. This comes as the Minister of Foreign Affairs raises yet more serious issues of political prisoners, whose only crime is to question the tyrannical rule of the country's elite. And although some prisoners have been released, many activists see Myanmar's latest moves as little more than window dressing.
The Special Envoy to Myanmar, Prak Sokhonn, has asked that Myanmar release yet more prisoners to give peace and national reconciliation within the country a chance. Sokhonn spoke at the European Union and was referring to the recent mass release of nearly 6,000 prisoners, including senior National League for Democracy leaders, prominent opposition activists, journalists, and nationals of Australia, Britain, Japan, and the United States. Others hold a rather different view, as the president of the National Unity Government for Myanmar, operating in exile, has told the Khmer Times that although the junta has just released nearly 6,000 inmates from their state prisons, such an act is not enough to legitimize their rule of the country. Not to mention that it does not signal any change in the junta's behaviour, and that is the main point. Yes, the junta has placated some, but fundamentally it has changed absolutely nothing. The NUG president said, although they released 5,700 prisoners, until now they still detain civilian government president Win Myint and the state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi, as well as thousands of other political prisoners. And what they have done is simply not enough. And shortly after the release of these prisoners, they committed yet more atrocities on civilians. While they are trying to show their good image, they continue with their hideous acts. For many, Myanmar's belligerent attitude to its people will make it a pariah state. And is it really that long before it becomes the North Korea of Asia?
4 Chinese nationals and a Cambodian woman have been arrested on suspicion of leaving a bomb in central Phnom Penh. The explosive device was discovered by chance, and when the police delved further into this mysterious case, what they discovered was the tentacles of a foreign criminal organization that was involved in what could have been a catastrophic incident.
This serious incident has been associated with organised criminals from China, and this was confirmed by Lieutenant General Kim Kuhan. According to the general, the suspects were arrested by the District Police Inspectorate in collaboration with the Criminal Police Department of the Ministry of Interior. The investigation began when the initial incident occurred early on December 15, when a grenade and other suspicious devices was found on National Assembly Road in Phnom Penh. The bomb had been left in a public place and was discovered by a garbage disposal employee. And thankfully, he acted with a cool head, as well as an awful lot of caution. The device itself was peculiar. It was contained in a bag, and the grenade itself was coated with a mysterious white powder. Now, this could have possibly been some sort of accelerant to amplify the explosive blast, or maybe was a chemical to create a spontaneous combustion at the point of explosion, making it more of a firebomb. Experts had to be called in to deal with the situation. The Cambodian Mine Action Centre specialists had to render the bomb safe. The suspects themselves have been sent to the Criminal Police Department of the Ministry of Interior, and what is not known is what or who was the intended target, and why was the bomb left in such a central location, one that could have caused widespread injury and panic.
The government is looking to end child marriages within the country. They are looking into drawing up an effective national plan to put an end to child marriages after an alarming figure has been announced. A recent Ministry of Health report for 2021-2022 has revealed that 30% of girls between 15 and 19 are getting pregnant. And if that is not shocking enough, this number is only increasing.
The effects on a child's life when married young is radical. It denies them access to education and potential economic opportunities, particularly for young girls. The driving force for these child marriages is severe poverty and a weak legal enforcement mechanism. And due to the law not being enforced, this leaves children burdened with children of their own, and subsequently a life forever neck deep in the poverty trap. A Ministry of Women's Affairs spokeswoman said this week that child marriages in the country are at an alarming level. She said Cambodia has tried to act against early marriages, but it is only focused on a single province, where there happens to be many cases, rather than looking at the entire country. It is said that the primary reason for such high rates of child marriages are to be found in a lack of access to education, economic opportunities and health services, and this particularly affects young girls. Alongside this, there are severe poverty issues, and what with the weak legal enforcement, that makes these practice of child marriages almost wholly acceptable within some areas. Marriage at such a young age often places young girls at the risk of violence, exploitation and abuse, and can devastate a child's life. The culture in rural areas is to start families young, but only leads to the shackles of debt being firmly attached to the young mothers for the rest of their lives. A life that is to be condemned by poverty at a tragically young age.
Now to business news, and many financial observers are quoting Cambodia as a dark horse that could turn into the next big thing in Southeast Asia. Rising from the ashes of the Khmer Rouge, Cambodia has established itself as one of the world's fastest growing economies in the region. The Khmer Times spoke with experts to find out why and how the kingdom could well be the next Asian tiger.
Having one of the fastest economic growth rates in the world for over 2 decades, coupled with a rising young population and now an attractive investment destination, Cambodia is being increasingly viewed by business leaders and economists as the next Asian tiger, closely following in the footsteps of Singapore and Hong Kong. According to a recent World Bank report, thanks to thriving garment exports and flourishing tourism, Cambodia's economy grew at an average annual rate of 7.7% between 1998 and 2019, making it one of the fastest growing economies in the world. The kingdom's economy, according to the report, is projected to grow by 4.8% in 2022, upwardly revised from the initial forecast of 4.5%. Over the medium term, the economy is expected to grow at approximately 6% annually, as the new investment laws and free trade agreements help boost investment and trade. One analyst has said that the IMF is projecting that Cambodia will be the fastest growing economy by 2025. The kingdom has a remarkable near zero unemployment rate and is finally creating better jobs with rising incomes. The future for the kingdom certainly looks very bright.
And now it's time to look at our sports news.
Bonjour, mon chers, and there's not an awful lot in the way of sport this week. We just need to tie up with a big red bow that event, which was the World Cup. Now, let's just look at a couple of results here. Croatia didn't stand a chance in the semis against Argentina, which is a shame because they were a solid team. France predictably took down Morocco, so that left France and Argentina facing one another off. After full time, it was 3 apiece. But the ones that held their nerve was the Argentinians, beating France in the World Cup final of 2022. And as they did so, I'm sure they wished them an au revoir.
It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And here is your festive forecast. It's the same across the board. It's sunshine, it's cloud, but there is no rain. And that's absolutely fantastic news. It is getting a lot cooler. The government has actually issued a warning because it'll go down into the very low 20s. Humidity sits at 66. But look at that. Christmas Day, it's going to be fantastic. So from myself in the newsroom and all of us at the Khmer Times, this is my opportunity to wish you a most Merry Christmas.
This has been the Khmer Times News. You can contact myself at the studio by mailing us at ktnewsstudio@gmail.com. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next Saturday for your weekly roundup.